In this video, I'm going to go over some of the basics of how to set up Proctorio for your Canvas course, and maybe more importantly, some of the various hoops that you and your students are going to have to jump through if you want to use Proctorio for the quizzes in your Canvas course. So, let's jump right in. You want to add Proctorio to your Canvas course so that your students can take their quizzes remotely, or because you want to add an extra layer of security, or both. How do you go about doing that? Well, the first thing you want to do is go into Canvas. And you can do pretty much everything to enable Proctorio in your own Canvas course. But I recommend that you contact me first, because I can save you the trouble of jumping through all of the hoops and maybe not knowing if you've done everything the best possible way for you and your students. So if you want to set up Proctorio, the best thing to do is to contact me. You can call me at 29262 or email me at swhite@nursing.utexas.edu and let me know that you want to use Proctorio, and I can take it from there. Before you contact me, however, it's a good idea to think about whether or not you should use Proctorio, because Proctorio and remote proctoring in general is not necessary for every class. If all or some of the quizzes in your course are high stakes, then you probably should use Proctorio. If there are things like the medication exam that students must pass in order to continue in the program, then that would qualify as high stakes. Otherwise, you may not need it. In addition to that, if you want to allow students the freedom and flexibility to take their quizzes outside of class, from home, at the local Starbucks, whatever the case may be, then Proctorio allows you to do that as well. And the nice thing about using Proctorio for remote testing is you can still be sure that your quizzes are secure and your students have the flexibility of testing anywhere they want. So you've already decided that you want to add Proctorio. Well, the first thing you'll want to do is go into Canvas, and in your Canvas course, you'll go to the settings. Then on the settings page, you'll go to navigation, and then in the navigation, you'll see this listing of the different things that are enabled, and then below that, there's a section of things that are disabled. And among them is this one that says Secure Exam Proctor Proctorio. So you'll click Enable, and then Save. And once you do that, this is the first step in turning on Proctorio. What this does is it allows you to now turn on Proctorio for individual quizzes. What this has done is it's turned on Proctorio for your course. There are still several other steps, most importantly among them, turning on Proctorio for each quiz in your class. In addition to that, however, there are several other resources that are available to you. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend you contact me, because I can take care of not only the step that we just did, but everything else to set up Proctorio for your course. All of the other resources that are available are here on a page in the blog that I maintain for the School of Nursing. Among other things, there is some boilerplate text that you can add to your syllabus, which I highly recommend, because Proctorio is going to require that you and your students use Google Chrome as their web browser, among other things. And letting them know in the syllabus ahead of time is a good idea. There's also a recommended announcement that you send out to students at the beginning of the semester to let them know that you're going to be using Proctorio. It will also include a link to some supplemental information where they can go to learn more about what Proctorio is if they're not already familiar. It will also include a link to this optional practice quiz that's recommended just to make sure that your student's computer is up to par for using Proctorio. There's also an optional announcement that I recommend sending out before any major exams. And what this does is it recommends to students that they uninstall and reinstall the Proctorio plugin that they're going to be using. Because every once in a while that plugin does get updated, and it's a good idea to make sure it's completely up to date before a major exam so that your students don't freak out right before they're about to take their big final exam as part of your course. And then there are also faculty and student guides that just give an overview of what Proctorio is and some of the best practices for using it. So all of those are available on my blog. If you contact me, I will save you the trouble of putting those in your Canvas course. I can do it all for you and then let you know when it's all finished. Beyond that, if you've already enabled Proctorio and you want to add it to a quiz, what I showed you a moment ago is the first step. You turn on Proctorio for your course. Then you can create a quiz and turn on Proctorio for that quiz. So that's the second step to allowing remote proctoring of a quiz. To get started, you just create a new quiz. And now that Proctorio is enabled, you'll notice there's a new tab on your quizzes. Once you enable Proctorio, you now have access to what's called the Proctorio settings. So when I click this tab, it scrolls me down to the bottom of the quiz details, and now I will click to enable Proctorio Secure Exam Proctor. That's the second important step. What this does is it turns on Proctorio for this quiz. And as you may have noticed, the access code was automatically filled in. This is done by Proctorio. So for instructors, it's important to know, if you use Proctorio, you cannot use your own access codes. So just as a heads up. After you enable Proctorio, now it's time to turn on or off the individual settings that you want to use for your quiz. To do that, you go into the Proctorio settings tab, and that's what I'll talk about in the next video.